There's a lorry driver shortage in the UK. Dairy farmers are being told to dump their milk.
For days, shoppers have been urged not to stockpile. But if scenes like these filmed this morning are anything to go by, the message isn't getting through.
In some shops,
Items like toilet roll, hand sanitizer and pasta are now increasingly hard to come by as coronavirus-linked panic buying continues. Despite assurances that stockpiling isn't necessary, shoppers we spoke to today said they found it hard to resist.
Good morning, Britain. Well, petrol stations closing, pumps running dry and motorists queuing to fill up. It's the fallout of the HGV driver shortage.
In some shops, the shelves are empty.
Some, like Tesco and Morrison's, have introduced a 3-item limit per customer for things like flour, dry pasta and that all-important toilet roll.
It's extremely serious. The situation is critical.
The question is, why is this happening?
Panic buying is defined as the action of buying large quantities of a particular product or commodity due to a sudden fear of a forthcoming shortage or price rise. It is a topical phenomenon and has been recently highlighted by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Perhaps you recall seeing empty shelves at the supermarket or queues of traffic outside your local petrol station. These are some of the direct consequences of panic buying. There have been many instances of panic buying throughout history. If you look back to the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, the American President JFK announced the Russians were preparing to point missiles at the country from Cuba. The public reacted by storming the supermarkets, most notably filling their trolleys with non-perishable food, torches, batteries and yes, toilet roll. Moving on in time, we are met with the 1973 oil crisis, where Middle Eastern countries collectively organised to reduce oil production in order to pressure Western oil consumers. Fast forward 6 years and another oil crisis occurred when the Iranian Revolution stopped oil being produced. Now you may be asking yourself, how is panic buying an architectural problem? Well, let's investigate. Areas in which the consumer industry most notably fails to accommodate panic buyers occurs at distinct nodes. The main centre of chaos during a crisis, as shown by the news clips, are supermarkets, but the problem doesn't just start there. To discover how such a trivial commodity like toilet paper causes so much chaos, we will investigate the process at the global, national, urban and immediate scales of the problem. We live in an era of globalisation. Our current society reaches out far and wide for the supplies that make up the majority of what stocks our supermarket shelves. In 2019, the UK imported almost half of its food requirements from overseas. To accommodate this economic model, large ports service the cargo ships that bring in supplies. In England, we particularly see how these ports influence the transport networks that run between cities. High-speed road and rail networks transport goods to warehouses all over the country. These large storage facilities act as a distribution hub for supermarkets, storing goods until they are needed to stock shelves. Here we can see the locations of supermarket chains around England. Because these goods are perishable, fast transport times between storage units are essential for their preservation. Over 50% of supermarket chains in England are located with 1 kilometre of an arterial road. And if you think about that, it makes sense. Clustering large supermarkets around high-speed roads ensures the products get to the store quickly, guaranteeing a long product shelf life. Let's examine this on a citywide scale and zoom in on the city of Liverpool. When examining the arrangement of cities, it is helpful to first look at the work of urban theorists. Jane Jacobs was a highly influential journalist and writer on urban development during the 19th century. She famously rose up to fight against the development agenda of Robert Moses, a well-established public official in New York. Jacobs was adamant that the street be made up of many small and diversified cooperative stores that served its residents. She also advocated for mixed-use city blocks rather than separate zoning, which would allow for a diversity of local experiences. Since the time of Jacob's seminal work, people have determined that cities, not suburbs, are the most attractive locations to live. Cities are seeing the fastest rise in population growth throughout the world, outpacing neighbouring areas. Returning to Liverpool, we again find a large percentage of supermarket chains clustered around arterial roads. Two typologies of supermarkets emerge. Large superstores surround the outskirts of the city, and because land within the central business district is so valuable, a smaller satellite typology is required to probe at the dense central district. The superstore typology surrounding the city centre are usually found nestled amongst larger residential areas. Being adjacent to arterial roads means customers can come from further distances, as journey times are quicker. This results in superstores having a wide area of influence, serving thousands of people over the course of a workday. At a satellite supermarket found within the city centre, people will often travel by foot to the store. This sets them apart from a superstore where the primary mode of transportation is the car. At the satellite typology, people are limited by what they can carry, whereas visitors to the superstore may fill their car with supplies to last them for longer periods of time. This makes the superstore typology more vulnerable to panic buying, as people have a much larger capacity to stock up on goods that they perceive are in short supply. The supermarket is connected globally with a large network to keep it running smoothly and efficiently. However, when a problem occurs in the pipeline, it has a knock-on effect on the consumer. In the example of the recent HGV driver shortage, the media reported the issue, which led to an increase in shoppers who bulk bought goods to ensure they didn't run out of items. A small surge in a supermarket can be noticed from passers-by, who add to the problem by joining the original panic buyers queue. This again is highlighted by the media, with footage of queues increasing the problem. Chaos occurs in the car park, and panic sets in when shoppers who have gone through the queue can now not find a parking space. You may not consider car parking part of the panic buying problem. However, car parks play a huge role in causing chaos. In a normal scenario, people would drive in from an adjacent road and occupy around a third of the spaces, get their shopping and leave without much of a problem. However, in a panic buying scenario, roads are filled with already panicked customers rushing to get their products. The bottlenecks from the road into the car park cause congestion, further aggravating people. Customers who are already irritated from the situation flood into the car park, where they are met with no spaces, further adding to a person's agitated state. The layout of the shelves within a supermarket is also another factor that aids in creating panic buying behaviour. When walking through a supermarket, if you notice a shelf is full of a product, you feel reassured that there's plenty to go around. However, when the shop is lacking in a product, gaps in the shelves highlight the shortage, which can exacerbate the panic buying and hoarding problem. Fake signs are also used to reduce customers' concern that they may not be able to buy the product at a later date, even if there's a shortage at the time. A clever way shops conceal panic buying is by rearranging the layout of shelves, spreading the products out and hiding the gaps. This works to ameliorate the fear of supply shortage and reduce panic buying. From our research, we found that the consumer system has been designed around the human routine. However, when the routine is broken by a crisis, like the COVID-19 pandemic, the system breaks under pressure. How have people adapted to panic? Online food shopping was increasing in popularity for years, but since the pandemic has hit, it has soared to record highs, with the term food delivery being searched for more than ever before. Hoarding allows people to bulk up on stock so they don't need to make as many shop visits. As consumer behaviour continues to change, this brings to question how this will impact the consumer landscape and infrastructure. Perhaps this is the world we are now living in, and the way we shop will change to meet the new demand. Although panic buying might seem like a relatively minor affliction in today's world, it could also be seen as a symptom of a large failing in the UK's economic infrastructure. As architects, we are interested in looking at the whole picture surrounding panic buying. While it may be easy to say that supermarket layouts are to blame for accommodating malicious consumer behaviour, redesigning floor plans would only attempt to patch a small part of a much larger issue. For our thesis, our group is looking to investigate alterations to the supply system we currently have in place. This could be in the form of alternative realities and will result in different future scenarios. The ramifications of these alterations will change the built environment at a wide variety of scales. This would particularly affect how we live and interact in public space. After our research, we can now ask questions for our upcoming thesis, which include: what happens if shortages become common and panic buying is the new normal? Using current trends that we have analysed surrounding food delivery, how would the architecture adapt if trends continued? And as seen previously, the media affects surges of panic buying on items. In the future, will the media begin to dictate what the current trends are of panic buying?